Good afternoon, everybody. Today morning or in the previous class, we have already discussed regarding the terminologies which are used to describe an angiospermic plant. Just to brush up what we learnt in the previous class, contains the description of an angiospermic plant starts with the habitat of the plant, habit of the plant, and after that the root system, what kind of root system the plant is having, the stem and its nature, if there is any modification it is to be mentioned in the description. Then we continued with the leaf. The class ended with half portion of the leaf description. First you have to decide whether the leaf is polline or radical. Then you have to continue with the leaf whether it is simple or compound. Once you describe it is compound, what kind of compound, whether it is pinnately compound or palmately compound. If you describe the leaf as pinnately compound, then you have to mention whether it is unipinnately or bipinnately or tripinnately compound or decompound kind of leaf. And if it is unipinnately compound, then you have to describe it as whether it is parapinnately compound or imparapinnately compound with all specific examples. Then the next one is with regards to the if it is simple leaf, then you have to mention the shape of the leaf. What is the shape of the leaf? You will come to know what are the different shapes of the leaf in the morphology part of your syllabus. So I am continuing with the leaf nature. That is, if it is compound, you have described as unipinnately, then all the types you have learned. If it is unipinnately compound, the rachis will be unbranched and directly the leaflets will be there on the rachis itself. So it is having one rachis there, so it is unipinnately compound. If the unipinnately compound leaf or the rachis is further branched to produce secondary rachis, and on the secondary rachis if it is bearing the leaflets, then it is called as accordingly it will be bipinnately compound. And accordingly, if the secondary branch is further branched to produce tertiary one, and on the third branch if the leaflets are present, then it is to be called as the tertiary or the tripinnately compound leaf. I have given the examples for all the types of leaves. Then the final type in the pinnately compound is decompound, very irregularly branched type of leaf found in coriander and in case of anythem is subversive, and carrot leaf is also example for the decompound kind of leaf. So I am continuing with the same, that is a type of leaf now. If the leaf is palmately compound, we were speaking with respect to, you learned about the pinnately compound leaf and its type. Now I am continuing with palmately compound leaf. Palmately compound leaf. So if it is palmately compound, as the word itself gives the meaning, palm-like in appearance. The leaflets, whatever may be the number of leaflets, all the leaflets are arising from a common point. So it is called as, it will appear like a palm and the leaflets will appear like the digits of the palm, and hence it is called as a palmately compound leaf. And as far as the types of leaves are concerned in palmately compound type, again the leaves are explained or the leaves are described based on the number of leaflets present in the leaf year. Because in case of pinnately compound leaf, it is described or it is divided into different types based on the number of branches it is having. Whereas in case of palmately compound leaf, it is further classified into different types based on the number of leaflets which are present in the leaf. So this is mainly based on number of leaflets present in the leaf. Accordingly, the first type in palmately compound leaf, it is called as unifoliately compound. The first type is unifoliately compound types. Now, if you have described the leaf as palmately compound, then you have to check whether it belongs to the different types. So the first type is unifoliately compound. Accordingly, it will be bifoliately compound. Third type is trifoliately compound, and fourth is quadrifoliately compound. And the fifth is digitately compound. These are the different types. Once you describe the leaf as palmately compound, then comes the question whether it belongs to the unifoliately type, bifoliately, trifoliately, quadrifoliately or digitately compound. So here you can make out the word uni, So 1, 2, 3, 4 and digitally is palmate-like, more than 4 leaflets. And in this case, the unifoliately compound leaf, the name itself gives the meaning. The compound leaf, palmately compound leaf having only 1 leaflet. So it is called as unifoliately compound leaf. Example for this is all these lemon species, because all of you have seen lemon leaf. So this is the winged petiole here. Winged petiole of lemon plant or lemon species. Most of the citrus fruits having that kind of leaf, and this is only leaflet. This is a single leaflet. This is never considered as a simple leaf. This is a leaflet, and the winged petiole is ending with 1 leaflet there. Hence it is called as unifoliately compound leaf. And example is lemon and most of the lemon, orange, etc. So lemon, I will give the example, specific example, lemon leaves. Accordingly, the second type is called as bifoliately compound, and you can catch the meaning. The leaf is having 2 leaflets here. So from a common point, if the leaf is consisting of 2 leaflets, it's a common petiole having small subpetiole like, and if the leaf is bearing 2 leaflets from a common point now, this leaf can be called as bifoliately compound leaf. This is a common petiole and the 2 leaflets arise from a common point here, and hence it is called as bifoliately compound. And the example for this is that actually it is a xerophytic weed, and the name of the plant is Hardwickia. Hardwickia is an example for the bifoliately compound leaf. Trifoliately compound, accordingly the petiole ending with 3 leaflets and arising from a common point over here. And in this case, all of us we know our common plant called as the patri, eagle. This is the nature of the trifoliately compound leaf. All the 3 leaflets arising from a common point here, and hence it is called as trifoliately compound leaf. And this is found in case of AEGLE. This is not EAGLE. This is also pronounced as eagle. Eagle is patri. Eagle marmelos is patri, and this plant is having trifoliately compound leaf because the 3 leaflets are arising from a common point. And quadrifoliately compound leaf. This is quadri again. 4 leaflets arising from a common point. And in this case, and this is here, there is an example from pteridophyte side. That is the most common type of pteridophytic plant. This is a petiole and this is stalk of the leaf, and all these 4 leaflets are arising. These are all leaflets. These are arising from a common point, and this is generally found in freshwater ponds, and the plant is a pteridophyte, and the name of the plant is Marsilia. Marsilia is an example for quadrifoliately compound leaf. It's not an angel's palm. It is a pteridophytic member. Digitately compound. Again here digits, fingers of the palm. If the leaf is consisting of more than 4 leaflets now, up to 4 there is a name, 1 uni, bi, tri and quadri. If the leaf is having more than 4 leaflets arising from a common point, then it is to be called as digitately compound, or there is another word that is called as palmately compound. Same, it did not go to palmately compound because it is a title of the file. So it is digitately compound, found in case of digitalis, that is in this case 5 leaflets will be there, 5 or 6 or more. In this case, here I have drawn 6 leaflets here, more than 6 may be there also, and in this case it gives a fan-like appearance to the leaf, and it is a digitately compound like because more than 4 number of leaflets are arising from a common point over here, and the leaflets are resembling the digits of the palm, and hence it is called as digitately compound. And this is found in case of tapioca. The name of the plant in which we find the digitately compound leaf is called as bombax. Bombax is a tree, Bombax malabaricum, and in case of tapioca you will find that is a plant with starchy root. It is a cultivated plant for its starchy root. Tapioca is another example, and Bombax is also example for digitately compound leaf. So that is with respect to the leaf nature, whether it is simple or compound. Once it is compound, you have to explain all the different types of compound leaf. And apart from this, if the leaf is simple, then comes the question of shape of the leaf, and shape is to be described accordingly by using the technical terms. Next, let us continue with the description of the leaf itself, and the next is you have to describe the venation of the leaf. So you give the next number. Give the next number to this one previous number, that is type of leaf or for the kind of leaf. After that, the next is venation. The venation means, because when we look at this nature of this vasculature of the leaf, dicot and monocot leaf, we describe the dicot leaf vasculature as reticulate in nature, and in case of monocots we call it as it is a parallel kind of venation. And venation is just a networking system across the lamina, across the width and length of the lamina, made up of midrib, veins, wavelets together, and that actually contains the conducting tissues called as xylem and phloem, which is going to supply water and food to the various parts of the leaf also, or it transports food and water from leaf to the other parts of the plant. And actually this is vasculature, and that is why there is venation. And veins, because midrib, veins, wavelets together constitute one networking system throughout the lamina and along the length and width of the lamina, so that is called as the venation. And it is to be described now. And as far as the venation is concerned, there are two types of venations. One is reticulate, either whether it is reticulate or it is parallel. This we know because if I provide two leaves to you, you will be definitely able to make out which leaf belongs to dicot and which is monocot. You can definitely say, because by looking at the venation only you can describe, or you can definitely say that it is a dicot leaf or it is a monocot leaf. Reticulate, the first type. Reticulate means reticulum is network. Network of what? It is not BSNL network or the geo network. Network with reference to the midrib, veins and wavelets. Consisting of vascular tissues, and if there is a networking system and if it appears like a network during this rainy season, you might have seen the dicot leaves which falls under the tree. After the decomposition of all the tissues, you will find a fine mesh-like networking system of the lamina. Very specifically, in case of pipal leaf, in case of ashwatha, Ficus religiosa is an example where we get a fine network, and the reticulum meaning itself is network, and if it is fine network, interwoven network of veins, wavelets together, then it needs to be called as reticulate venation. All dicots are example for having the reticulate kind of venation. If it is parallel, the parallel you can make out in case of banana, it is parallel venation, and all of the monocots are example for the parallel venation. If you look at the venation here, there are types there, and if the veins are running parallel to each other like this is also venation, the parallel venation. And in case of banana, we get at right angles the midrib, these are the veins which run parallel to each other. So all monocots, this is canna leaf or this is grass leaf. This is found in case of grass, and this is in case of banana, and you can make out that in both the case the veins are running parallel to each other. They never form a network-like system. So simply it is called as the parallel venation. All monocots are example for the parallel venation, having parallel venation, and all dicots they are characterized by the reticulate kind of venation. And the question arises, if it is now in both cases there are two different kinds, even reticulate as well as parallel. Let us continue with the types of venation under the reticulate type. So in case of reticulate venation, the types further: unicostate or multicostate. Multicostate. reticulate. So in this case, and here also the word is very specific, uni and multi. Costa, the word costa refers to midrib. It depends upon the number of costa here, number of midribs here, and accordingly it is described as unicostate or multicostate. There is no bicostate at all. So unicostate reticulate venation means the reticulate venation having single strong midrib. That is what is unicostate kind of reticulate venation. So mango leaf is an example for mango or polyalthia is an example for this is strong single midrib. Then this midrib is further branched to produce the veins and veins further branched to produce the veilnets and ultimately this is going to form a networking system. And in this case there is single strong midrib, so this kind of venation is called as unicostate reticulate kind of venation, and this is found in case of mango leaf or Michaelia champaca is an example for, even cashew is an example for unicostate reticulate kind of venation. If it is multicostate kind, instead of one it must contain more than one, so that in case of multicostate reticulate venation it will have for more than one strong midrib. So this is one type of multicostate reticulate venation. Further this is branched, all are branched to form network-like system, ultimately reticulate venation. Here you will find three equally strong midribs running parallel to each other and they are converging at the top. That's a type of multicostate reticulate venation. Just to give you the meaning of uni and multicostate, you can make out this. Here there is a single strong midrib in the center. Here there are three equally strong midribs running along the length of the lamina. So it is multicostate, this is unicostate. If it is multicostate, then comes the question whether it is multicostate convergent type or it is multicostate divergent type. So now in case of multicostate, there are two different types, convergent or it is divergent. Multicostate divergent type. Convergent type, converge at the tip. Multicostate convergent type means if the leaf is having more than one equally strong midrib starting from the base, they run parallel to each other and they are going to converge at the tip. So here this is an example here. All the three veins, the three midribs are going to converge at the tip. Here they have combined together at the tip. And this is the meaning of multicostate convergent type. Basically it belongs to reticulate venation, and this kind of venation you might have seen in most of the cases. That is, all of you have seen this leaf of this plant. This is cinnamon is an example. Cinnamon is an example for multicostate convergent type of venation. Reticulate. Again there is multicostate divergent type. You can make out diverge towards the periphery. More than one strong midrib in the leaf and they diverge towards the periphery. So that is called as divergent type. And in this case, this is not permanently compound leaf, this is simple leaf only, but having more than one equally strong midrib. Here I have drawn 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 equally strong midribs, and they are not converging like this at the tip, they are diverging towards the periphery so that the leaf appears as it is highly dissected. Papaya leaf is also an example for this kind of leaf, and castor leaf is an example for this kind of venation. Here there are multi-costa, more than one costa, equally strong costa arising from a common point and they are diverging towards the periphery. Ultimately they are further branched into reticulate pattern. Okay, so this lady's finger can be also given as an example for this kind of venation. So it is multicostate divergent, lady's finger, and then castor leaf and even papaya is an example for the multicostate divergent type. And this is multicostate convergent type and this is unicostate type of venation. And all the three belong to the reticulate kind of venation. Now the parallel type, again the same kind of classification. Parallel is also divided into the same type, unicostate or multicostate, and based on the number of costa, again it may be convergent or it may be divergent. Let us continue with the parallel kind of venation. Okay, now parallel to each other, or veins may be parallel to midrib also. In both the cases, this is a parallel venation found in almost all monocot leaves are example for the parallel venation. And once you describe it as parallel venation, then you have to go for whether you have to check whether the leaf belongs to this unicostate type or it is a multicostate type. Same classification. There is no other terminology. And you have to decide. And you know the meaning now. If the leaf is traversed by single midrib, single strong midrib, costa, and then in that case it is to be called as unicostate type. If there are more than one costa, then it is to be called as multicostate type. Unicostate is again an example. This is found in Kenna leaf. An exact example. Kenna is a common garden plant having the strong midrib in the center, single strong midrib in the center, and the veins are parallel to each other like this. No further branching of these veins never forms a reticulum. They are parallel to each other like this. This is found in case of Kenna, and this is the unicostate parallel kind of venation. Okay. Then the next is what is multicostate type, and in multicostate again two types. The convergent and divergent type, the same terminology. Multicostate convergent type, again, this is the example. Bamboo or grass leaf is an example for multicostate convergent type because the midrib-like structures are more than one here and they are equally strong, they run parallel to each other and they are converging at the apex like this. All are converging at the leaf apex. So, this is an example for multicostate convergent type found in case of bamboo or in grasses. They are the grass members. The leaf is described as multicostate convergent type. Multicostate divergent type is again, you know the meaning. More than one equally strong midrib diverges towards the periphery and it appears like a fan. The leaf appears, it gives a fan-like appearance to the leaf and it is called as multicostate divergent type. You might have seen most of the ornamental plants like this is the plant that is called as fan palm. The leaf is like this, it appears like this, and the plant is called as fan palm. And here, these are the midribs, and they are equally strong. They are diverging towards the periphery. They never converge, and they diverge towards the periphery, which gives a fan-like appearance to the leaf, and hence it is called as the multicostate divergent kind of parallel venation, found in case of fan palm. Because of the fan-like leaf, the palm is called as fan palm, and it is an example for multicostate divergent type of venation. This is the next step to describe the leaf. You have to check the venation, write the venation. Just you are going to write one word. It is if you describe it as reticulate, you have to check whether it is unicostate or multicostate. If it is unicostate, it's okay. Finally, it is finalized. If it is multicostate, then comes the question whether it is a convergent type or it is a divergent type. Similarly, in case of palmate leaf, that is a parallel venation also, the same kind of terminologies are going to appear and you have to describe, you have to check the nature, the leaf. Actually, you will be checking the characters in the leaf, holding the leaf in your hand and writing the word. That's it. One word gives that meaning because nobody will understand the terminologies which are used by you, the people who study the taxonomy or botany as one of the optional, because it is just like stenography. Nobody the other student who may be studying physics or other subjects or in arts or any other branch, and they fail to understand the terminology used by you people who study botany and describe the angiospermic plant. Then I will continue with the next part of description. After the venation, you have to describe the margin of the lamina. The next part of description is with respect to the margin of the lamina. Let's continue with the margin of lamina. I am not going deep into the different, all the shapes, all the margin types, etc. I will give some words and that will come in your in the theory part of your morphology syllabus. So margin of lamina is the next part. Margin is to be explained. So you have to check the margin of the lamina now. Leaf, individual leaf. The margin. So if the margin is smooth, based on the nature, there are different terminologies. If the margin is smooth like this, in this case, it is to be described as entire example for smooth margin, having this kind of smooth margin, and it is called as the entire type of margin. And if the leaf margin is like this, then it is to be called as serrate. Okay, it is we having several incisions on the margin. Only at the margin you have to check whether it is smooth or if it is like this. And if it is like this, in that case you have to describe it as serrate. And this is found in case of rose, or in case of hibiscus you can describe it as serrate. It is serrate type of margin. In many cases, the leaf margin may be like this. It's called as the exact terminology to explain this kind of margin is wavy. It's wavy in outline. It's not smooth like this. If it is smooth like this, it is to be entire. And if it is running wavy in outline, then it is to be called as wavy. This is found in case of Polyanthiya. And also in case of Michaelia champaka are the example for wavy kind of margin. Sometimes the margin may be like this, then it is called as dentate. This is found in case of water lily. All these things are to be checked in each one leaf, and then you are going to describe the leaf margin is serrate, or it is smooth, entire, or it is dentate, and so on. It is to be explained with respect to the margin. Then the next part of study is apex of the lamina. Apex of the lamina. Apex is tip of the lamina, and the nature is to be described. And I will give only three terminologies. If it is very sharp and pointed, in this case only you are going to check the apex of the lamina. And if it is pointed like this, it is to be described as acute apex. This is found in case of mango, Michaelia champaka, sharp and pointed tip of the lamina. It is to be called as acute kind of apex. Then there is obtuse type of in case of mandara, the leaf is doe-like. There is different terminology. Obtuse. This is called as obtuse type of. Here it is dissected. The apex is dissected, and it is called as obtuse type of apex. Like this, you are going to describe the acuminate is another. There is one more acuminate kind of venation, very specifically found in. All of you might have seen this leaf, this kind of leaf. This is in case of ashwata. Pipal leaf, you find the apex of the leaf is sharp, pointed, and very long. It is stretched to some extent, and this is called as acuminate. And these are all to be explained in the lamina, whether it is acute, obtuse, or acuminate. Cirrhose, having a coil structure. The banana leaf is an example for cirrhose type, and that is to be explained. Then the next part of study, next part of description is surface of the leaf. Leaf surface. You have to describe whether it is hairy or it is the next word to describe the surface is glabrous, spiny, and so on. So it is hairy, we know, Ocimum is tursi, the leaves are hairy in nature, the surface, texture, surface, you can make out the presence of hairs on lady's finger leaf, or it may be cucurbita leaf, or tulsi, pudina, they are all having leaves, the hairy structures over the surface of the lamina. Glabrous, very rough texture, which gives very sharp hairy structures will be there. Sometimes it fits to our fingers or to our skin, and as it is found in case of grasses, most of the grasses it cuts our fingers, and if you run your fingers over the entire lamina, they will be very sharp, consisting of sharp hairy structures. Then it is called as glabrous. And in case of spiny, you can make out if the spines are present over the lamina, as it is found in case of white brinjal, the roadside it grows, and in that case it is called as the spiny kind of lamina. That is to be explained. If it is not there, we need not worry about all such kind of structures which are present on the leaf. Then the next is called as texture, texture of the leaf. How you kind nature. If you feel the leaf, if it is very soft and tender-like, then it is called herbaceous, and very easily you can make out which one is herbaceous. If the leaf wilts very soon after when it is taken out from the plant. ತೆಗೆದು ಕೂಡಲೇ ಬಾಡಿ ಹೋದ್ರೆ very texture, soft texture ಇದ್ರೆ then it is called as the herbaceous kind of texture. Generally, the hibiscus leaves are example for the herbaceous type of texture, very soft nature. Herbaceous. Coriaceous, very rough texture, very rough. If you feel the leaf, mango leaf is very rough in texture because it is having thick cuticle over it and very thick lamina. In case of Macula champaca, it is very rough. And when the dry leaves fall on the ground, when you sweep, it gives a typical kind of sound because of the hardness of the leaf. And that kind of leaves are called as coriaceous texture. And this is found in case of mango, cashew leaves are example for the coriaceous texture. Fleshy is another kind. This is found in case of Basella, the amaranthus, the leafy vegetables, palak. They are all example for fleshy kind of leaves because they are fleshy in nature. They cannot withstand high temperature, and parallelly they are very herbaceous, also soft in texture. That is why that is the nature of the fleshy. This is Basella, is an example, or it is amaranthus, is the example for the fleshy kind of leaf. Then the succulent kind of leaf. Succulent is very fleshy and spongy. That is found in the case of aloe vera. Aloe is an example for the succulent kind of very spongy like, very thick, having more content of water inside, and because of that it becomes succulent in nature. And these are the things to be described in case of the leaf. So these are the words which are used to describe the leaves. So I think about 10 different words we are going to explain with respect to the description of leaf of every plant. So I will describe one leaf now. Whatever the words you have taken down, according to those terminologies, what I taught in the previous class as well as in this class, I will use all the terminologies and describe the hibiscus leaf now. Just to give you an idea how to describe the black part. Hibiscus leaf, okay? Hibiscus leaf is petiolate, stipulate, alternate. I'll give you the menu. Phyllotaxy I left. I will describe the phyllotaxy. Moline, herbaceous, with multicosted, reticulate venation, multicosted, reticulate venation, acute apex, and serrate margin. These are the words. This is how to describe the leaf of hibiscus plant. And only the student who is studying botany, or only the student who is studying the morphology or taxonomy, they will come to know what is the meaning of this petiolate, stipulate, alternate, moline, herbaceous with multicosted, reticulate venation, acute, it is acute, ACUTE, acute apex and serrate margin. I forgot to describe one part in the description of this leaf, that is phyllotaxy, alternate, that is the kind of phyllotaxy. I will complete that. Okay, got it? So write down the thing, and now you have to practice. Take the leaf of any plant which is available in your home garden and try to describe the leaf by using all these terminologies so that it becomes easy to remember all these terms. Very nice to study the taxonomy. So then the taxonomy becomes your most favorite subject. Otherwise, no, if you found it very difficult, if you find it very difficult to understand all these terminologies, taxonomy becomes a very hard subject. So I left this, I missed this, phyllotaxy. Phyllotaxy is the actual arrangement of leaves on the stem at the nodal region appears over the stem at the nodal region, that is phyllotaxy. And to describe the phyllotaxy in case of these angiospermic plants, we have to check whether it is there are different types. The first type of phyllotaxy is called as alternate. The second is called as opposite. And the third is called as whorled. Whorled kind of phyllotaxy. Alternate, opposite or whorled kind of phyllotaxy. I'll start with the first type, alternate. Alternate means one leaf at every nodal region. One leaf alternates with the other. So if you draw the alternate phyllotaxy, this is one leaf, continues to the next nodal region, second leaf, continues third, this is third. Okay. Only one leaf at every nodal region. This is 1, 2, 3. And if they are alternate, one is on the right, another is on the left. And so this is the proper arrangement of the leaves over the stem to focus almost all leaves to the sunlight, available sunlight, which is required for the process of photosynthesis. That's the purpose. Why the plants are also so clever. They want to expose more and more number of leaves to the sunlight, harvest the radiant energy, convert the radiant energy into the chemical energy. So that is the purpose of arrangement of leaves over the stem. That's the purpose. But this is alternate phyllotaxy, which is found in case of mango or hibiscus. Is an example for, you can quote, you can write any of the example which you have seen. If you know the names of the plant, well and good. If you don't know, you can ask me in the class or in the virtual class. I'll give the botanical name of the plant and you can write the exact examples. This is alternate phyllotaxy. Now the opposite phyllotaxy means two leaves at every nodal region. So if you draw the opposite phyllotaxy, exactly opposite to each other. Again the stem continues further. Again the second pair. Always they are arranged in pairs. This is an example for opposite phyllotaxy. Okay. Two leaves at every nodal region. The leaves are arranged in pairs. And at every node you will get two leaves like this in pair. And because they are quite opposite to each other. And this kind of phyllotaxy is called as opposite kind of phyllotaxy. Opposite kind of phyllotaxy means the word itself gives the meaning the two leaves of the pair are quite opposite to each other. And the example is Vinca rosea for opposite phyllotaxy. If it is opposite, then comes the question. There are two more types of opposite phyllotaxy. If it is opposite, then you have to check whether the leaves are opposite superposed or they are opposite decussate. Opposite superposed or opposite decussate. This is opposite superposed phyllotaxy because the pairs of the leaves which are present on both sides, left and right side of the stem, they are parallel to each other. So that we find two rows of leaves on the stem if it is flat, and that is called as superposed kind of phyllotaxy. If you write it as alternate, no problem. There is only one type, alternate. If it is opposite, then you have to mention whether you have to check whether it belongs to this type or this. Superposed means if they are parallel to each other, the two rows of leaves are parallel to each other, then it is to be called as superposed. Decussate means the successive pair of leaves. If suppose this is the one pair, the second pair will be at right angles to the previous, and the third pair will be again at right angles to the previous pair, so that you will get four distinct rows of leaves arranged over the stem. If you look from the top, Tulsi is an example and the Calotropis is an example. Tulsi, all of you are having Tulsi at your home. Check the Tulsi plant, observe from the top. Even Vinca rosea is the example for the opposite superposed decussate phyllotaxy only. And Ecce is very good example. Calotropis is a good example. If you observe the plant from the top, you will get four distinct rows of leaves. Okay, what's the idea of decussate? So decussate is the first pair, second pair will be at right angles. Then if you observe from the top, you will get four rows of distinct rows of leaves, and that kind of phyllotaxy is called as opposite decussate kind of phyllotaxy. An example for this is found in case of Calotropis, and Ocimum is the plant, the Tulsi plant. Botanical name of Tulsi is Ocimum. Ocimum and Calotropis are example for opposite decussate phyllotaxy. And for the superposed, you can quote the example of guava. Guava is a present over the stem, and apart from that you can give the example of Quisqualis. This is Rangoon creeper. Rangoon creeper, Quisqualis is Rangoon creeper, and this is an ornamental plant in which the leaves are arranged in opposite superposed manner. And this is with respect to the phyllotaxy. I wrote alternate in the hibiscus so that in case of hibiscus it is alternate only. And this completes the study of leaves in case of the any given plant, so that you have described the habitat, habit, root, stem and leaf. Okay, all these are vegetative parts of the body, plant body, the root, the stem and leaf. Now we have to switch over to the reproductive part of the plant, that is the inflorescence and the flower and its parts, the description of these parts of the plant by using all the technical terms. Okay, got it? The study of the leaf. This completes the leaf, right? So now let us continue with the next part of study to describe the angiospermic plant. It is the inflorescence. Inflorescence. Inflorescence is, it doesn't mean that it is cluster of flower. Inflorescence is a reproductive shoot bearing one to many number of flowers, but arranged in a definite pattern, which are arranged in a definite pattern is called as an inflorescence. Okay, definition of inflorescence is reproductive shoot bearing one or many flowers arranged in a definite pattern on the branches is called as inflorescence. Because hibiscus is one inflorescence, it contains only one flower. Rose is an inflorescence, it contains only one flower. Jasmine is an inflorescence, it may contain 3 or 5 flowers. And the mayflower is an inflorescence. Arecanut inflorescence you have seen, coconut inflorescence you have seen. Multiple, many number of flowers will be there. And it doesn't mean that it must contain many number of flowers. It may contain few number of flowers, but there is a definite pattern of their arrangement. Then it is called as inflorescence. Inflorescence I will not go into deep because it is one full topic that will be dealt in the morphology part of your syllabus. It is a reproductive shoot bearing one to many number of flowers arranged in a definite pattern. And as far as the types are concerned, you can describe whether the inflorescence is racemose, or it is cymose, or it is special, or it is mixed. There are 4 different kinds of inflorescence. We are going to study the inflorescence in detail in the morphology part of your syllabus. So that racemose is indefinite inflorescence, very long, continues to grow. There is the axis never ends with a floral bud, and it starts with a small inflorescence and continues to grow longer, because never ends with a floral bud. It is of continuous growth. So it is called as indefinite kind of inflorescence. Whereas cymose type of inflorescence is limited, it's having limited growth because the axis of the inflorescence ends with a floral bud. There will not be further growth in the axis, so it is of limited growth. This is a limited kind of inflorescence. Special, it is very special, that is found in case of Hypanthodium is a special inflorescence, where the ficus, that is Anjura, ficus is an example for a Hypanthodium inflorescence. It is a very special kind of inflorescence. There are special type that is called as one more is called as a Cyathium is there. Cyathium inflorescence found in Euphorbia species. There are special, then mixed inflorescence which shows the characters of both cymose as well as racemose. Mixed Tulsi inflorescence is an example for the mixed kind of inflorescence. There are various types based on the growth of the axis, arrangement of flowers, etc. You will get the detailed account of inflorescence in your morphology part of the syllabus. Okay, I will not go into the deep. Now, I will continue with the flower, the most important part to explain the angiospermic. It is a part of the angiospermic plant, the flower. So, to define the flower is a reproductive part of an angiospermic plant, and it is purely meant for the reproduction because the flower contains the reproductive parts there. You have already studied the flower and the reproductive parts in the 3rd semester syllabus, 3rd semester class, and in this case the flower consists of male reproductive part called as androecium. Androecium is the male reproductive structure, the gynoecium is the female reproductive structure, and the flower is meant for the sexual reproduction. Okay, the flower and its description. Now, the first when you are describing an angiospermic plant and you come to the you are starting to describe the flower of a given plant. In that case, the first word to describe the flower is whether the flower is pedicellate or it is sessile. Pedicellate or sessile. And here you have already learned the similar kind of word petiolate and sessile with respect to the leaf description. Here the word is pedicel. It is the stalk of the flower. Stalk of the leaf is called as petiole. Stalk of the flower is called as pedicel. And now the pedicellate flower is the flower with pedicel. Flower with stalk. Okay. Flower with pedicel is called as pedicellate flower. Whereas flower without pedicel is called as sessile flower. Okay? Flower without pedicel is called as sessile flower. Example. Think with respect to the plants which are around you and give the example. And I will give the example for the pedicellate flower. Rose is a pedicellate flower. Caesalpinia is a pedicellate flower. Caesalpinia is Lysehubu. Lysehubu is called as Caesalpinia. Cassia is a pedicellate flower. It is Tatesopo is called as cassia. You can quote the example of hibiscus again. We cannot quote only hibiscus for all the types. Hibiscus is also a pedicellate flower. Now comes the role of sessile flower. Now comes the time to describe the sessile. Example for sessile flower. The sessile flower is the one which is not having stalk. Okay, no stalk. And in this case, the sessile flowers are found in case of male and female flowers of coconut and arecanut. Okay, coconut and arecanut. And in case of colocasia, also the flowers are sessile in nature. They don't have a specific stalk. They are directly present on the axis. This is the first word to describe the flower. Whether the flower contains, you have to check the pedicel. If the pedicel is present in a flower, describe the flower as pedicellate. If there is no stalk, then you have to describe it as the sessile flower. Now, the next word is bracteate or ebracteate. Or ebracteate flower. Okay. Bract is again in the leaf study you have studied stipule, stipulate or exstipulate leaf. The similarly, the bract is extra leaf-like structure found at the base of the flower, the junction from which the flower arises. If you find the leaf-like structure, but the difference between stipule and bract is stipules are always found in pair, whereas the bract is always found singly. Okay. So if a flower, if it is suppose it's a stem and the flower is arising from this is the stalk of the flower. Okay. It's a floral bud. It's a bud. And at the base if you find a small leaf-like structure, this one. This is a flower bud and this is the bract. Always it will be there singly. Okay. If you find two, that is different. Leaf is characterized by two stipules. This is a bract. If this kind of leafy structure is present at the base of the flower, if the bract is present, then you are going to describe the flower as bracteate. This is with bract. Many cases the bracts are modified in many cases in many of the flowers to attract insect and help in the process of pollination, or it may protect the entire inflorescence, entire flower. So different roles are there for the bract to play in the flower. So if the bract is present, it is to be described as bracteate. And in case of hibiscus, there is no such kind of structure there in case of hibiscus. The leaf, always the hibiscus